All right. Yeah, I got an echo. All right. Yeah, I got an echo. All right. So I've been meaning to, every time I sit down to like put together a live, something always comes up. Every time I sit down to, let's turn it off. Every time I get down, so something always comes up. Last time I did this, my mic wasn't working. So I was like, all right, I could wait till everything's perfect, or I can just go live. So I've been meaning to post more content around AI and development and startup stuff. But yeah, instead of waiting for the conditions to be right, why not just post in whatever conditions I got? I done got 2 hints already this week with folks posting just, hey, I'm just posting as I am. So I'm just, all right, let me just post. Let's not wait for the perfect storm. Let's just go do something. All right. So I think what I'm going to do. So I've been meaning to start this project. What I want to do is I want to vibe code building a product from end to end. Just go through my process, how I go through things, how I build with AI. And right now I have like a couple things that are in production that like I can't show. So it's like I got to build something from scratch. So let's go through, I guess, my thought process of like how I build a product from scratch, what's in my workflow, how I make this thing work. And let's see what we get out of this. I don't think I'm going to finish all in one night, but if nothing else, like we'll go through my setup. Got my handy dandy notebook. We'll go through my setup, how I kind of put things together, and then see what happens from there. And maybe I'll turn this into like some clips for later because I gotta post on social media more. Sorry, this camera's gonna follow me everywhere. I'm trying to find my drawing pad. There you go. Got my drawing pad. And we just gonna vibe out. This is a vibe. I won't call this a vibe coding session, but this is like a get started session for like how I set things up. I got a few things I could probably walk through. So let's start the screen sharing. Boom. Scala draw. We're gonna walk through it. And I'm gonna walk you through my setup. I think my volume's still good. I gotta make sure my volume's still good. I was so mad last time I went through this and my volume wasn't good. Boom. All right. I really got this thing. I had a whole thing down, but we're not even gonna go through this. We're just gonna start like with some basic setup stuff. What I like to use, where I'm at. So one of the things I love using is Pocket. It's like my favorite bookmarking tool. There are a lot of other bookmarking tools on the market right now, and there's a lot of open source stuff that's on the market. Honestly, I don't want to use them. I feel like this is a perfect opportunity to just like rebuild it. So essentially what I want to do is like rebuild a Chrome extension for myself that I can self-host. And it's my Pocket alternative. The other thing I don't have it here. On another one, I have like Google suggested reads. And oftentimes it gives me some really cool articles. And so I kind of want a combination of both of those things, right? I want to find a spot where I can, research and study some things, and get my Pocket. So I've exported all my Pocket stuff since Pocket is closing permanently. I've exported all my Pocket stuff, and I want to rebuild my own rebuild Pocket in my own vision, right? So I'm going to walk through some things. My usual mental model, even before I get to code, I kind of want to like open up a chat, kind of discuss what it is. So I'm building a product, right? So it's like, all right, what is the thing I'm trying to build? First, I might see if ChatGPT writes me a description. Let's see. I use Get Pocket for all of my bookmarking. Let's kind of start with a baseline of, because we're going to be building this thing out. So let's start with like a baseline of what this is. So Pocket clean, distraction-free reading experience. It does offer a reading experience and offline high quality content. All right, great. So I have like a baseline of what Pocket is. And now I kind of want to go into like, all right, I want to build my own. All right, but I do want to consider some things. So it's like, all right, knowing what it is, I want to lay out whatever features. I want to lay out a feature list for MVP. Let's lay that out. Okay. All right, so I want to lay out a feature list for MVP. Let's see what they give me. Pocket replacement Chrome extension MVP list. Save to inbox. One-click save button. Category tagging. View saved items. Offline support. Optional for MVP. User features sync across devices. Reader mode. Delete archive. Backend. We can skip all that. Nice to have post MVP. So let's zoom in on the features a bit. So save to inbox. One-click button. Save in the browser tab, capture URL. See, one of the things I liked about Chrome, I just hit the save button. I never did tagging or anything. Like, just boom. I never added tags. We just did it. So I kind of like auto tagging versus the tags. All right, so let's go. We got save to inbox, capture URL, page title, favicon, another option. It didn't really capture that. Instant save confirmation. Here we go. Instant save confirmation. Tagging. Add one more tags. Autocomplete. View saved items. Lightweight. Clean UI. Again, we're not getting straight into code. We're kind of establishing a framework for what we're going to build as a business. So if you as a founder, you're trying to get into vibe coding, you're trying to build a business, like this is where you start. The foundation isn't in the code. It's in like, all right, what is the product I'm building? How do I understand this thing? Do I really understand it? Sort of. So we got sort, view saved items. I don't care about this so much. I think I want to drill down this a different way. View saved items. Yeah, I don't really care about this. So we're gonna go into this a little bit more, and then we're gonna drop 4. All right. The 2 core things that this thing has to do. Actually, let's call it 3 core things. Right. So let's go into. Oh my gosh, I get to use this. Let's do a fresh one. This is only my 2nd time using this application, so forgive me. I'll get faster as I learn how this thing works. Boom. There we go. How did I do that? Okay, let's delete my wonderful, beautiful drawings. All right. So the 3 core things we care about. We're looking at this. It's save to inbox. So that's important. We have to be able to save it to the inbox. But here's one thing that we haven't considered, which I think is also important. For people like me and myself, I have thousands of links inside of Pocket. I've already exported. I have a CSV that I've exported. I kind of want a CSV auto import. So I want auto import from CSV. Boom. So that's another big feature. Because I want to be able to import everything I have. And perhaps if other people use it, I want them to import everything they have. 2 most critical things: saving, importing, getting all my links over. Next is I do want the ability to see, but I kind of want to call it feeds. So I say I want a feed of URLs. And then I want a 4th thing. So the 4th thing I want, this is where I want to get. So I kind of want to remix this. So I want a feed and then a main feed or feed center, feed central. And then perhaps I want a running list. All right, so those are the 2. That's how I kind of want to work with that. All right, so we kind of have this, right? So now we have your list. We have a we have your running list. Hold on. Running. I'm trying to figure out how to list. Ooh. I'm also trying to figure out how to manage the chat. I haven't quite got LinkedIn set up yet, so I'm trying to figure out. I'm seeing LinkedIn on my phone. Let me see if I can put it right here so I can watch it as it's going. All right, so those are 2 without volume because it's gonna echo. All right, cool. So I'll let folks know I'm here. So now you have boom, we're going to save it to our inbox. We're going to run a list. We got to feed central together. Our product. So we're building a product. This is our product. Kind of know what it's going to be. I'm going to say, all right, cool. Let's focus in. Since Pocket is closing, let's add import CSV. Feature. So we're going to import a CSV and split 3. Split number 3. Ideally, what I want to do is add some complexity to the central feed. That includes suggestions. All right, boom. So I'm going to suggest a feed. One of the cool things I love to do, because like I said, I like reading the links that I get through Google, and it helps me find new technology, new articles, new things people are writing about in the space. And I read a lot of that stuff. And so if I had a location where I can read the article and then save it right to my saved links, it'd be really cool. So I kind of want to add that too. So we have here again, let's look at one-click saved inbox, smart tagging. And then we have feed split, central feed. So I kind of just split it into 2 things. Save feed. And then we have for our CSV importer. Our CSV importer, we know what that looks like. Let's go to my Dropbox where I have this, my export currently listed. Boop. Doo, ba-da-doop, doo-doop. I'm not promising any music with this. I'm not singing or anything. But I am going to share valuable experience. Don't mind me just going through my Dropbox. All right. I got so much content in here. Bots. Let's go to my bots. It's just public content. All right. This, I believe, is our feed. Let's download this. Ooh. And then we can look at it here. Stop. We have title, URL, time added, tags, and status. And then we can see like there's like this pipe in between them to split the tags and status. All right. So we know the object, how the object is formed, and what we should kind of expect from that. Background agent. Oh, look at that. Got our background agent, optional stretch goals. Boom. Post MVP idea. So it kind of helps us like put everything into a flow. Great. From here, usually like if this was a product where I have to do some like user validation first, I would do some user validation. But this is something people use, and this is for me. So this is dog food. I'm just dog fooding this thing. So I'm going to start building. And so let's get into like how I set up my VS Code for doing the vibe coding. All right, let's get into the vibes. Ooh, MVP API. We're going to go to a new one. All right. So I've tried them all. We've worked with Gemini, we've worked with Claude, we've worked with Cline AI. Right now, my favorite is Cline. Cline has been updated, thank goodness. Now, there are some things that Cline does really, really well. So let's look at this real quick and why I really like Cline. So now we're getting to like the parts that Cline does well. So Cline, if we look at it, it does task management, tasks. It has caching, assisted calls, and a context window. Here's our tasks, where it's managing the tokens, and we kind of see everything laid out. The 3, I guess what I would call the 3 pillars are the Cline rules, prompting, and tool calling. MCP, we can go into a little later. I'm not going to get into that directly. but like the three major sections, which is the Cline rules, prompting, and tool calling. This is kind of what makes Cline unique. Claude AI, if we're working with Claude, it has a smaller context window. And so I can't really set up some rules. And what happens is we get a lot of noise. So Cline will start generating code. So if I say, hey, give me a boilerplate, make me an app that is a pocket replacement. Sure, it's going to go out and build an application that's a pocket replacement, but there's going to be some sections of it that's broke. It might not do authentication the way I want to do authentication. It might not save the URLs the way I want to save the URLs. And so where that is kind of controlled is where we are getting into Cline rules and advanced prompting. And so I want to drill into like, all right, if I'm a startup founder and I'm building in this space, I'm really building a real product. Like, how do I build a real product and not just something I show off for a YouTube video that's going to give me a bunch of likes and I just have a tag it and go, how I built an app that's worth $250K. Reality of most of it is not worth jack. So like, how do we build real applications? I don't want to just post, or I'm not really serving this content so we can just talk about, how we're making fake vibe coding things. Like I really want to go, how do we build something legit, right? Got these like memes of what happens to these vibe coders who are like building things. For me, as someone who's like experienced in development and writing without AI, how do I go about leveraging AI to build real products that are tangible? And so, I want to be able to walk you through that in a way. And again, this isn't for people who are new to, I wouldn't necessarily say new to vibe coding, but people who want to take it a step further, right? Say, hey, I did the vibe coding thing. I kind of understand where it goes. I want to go a little bit more advanced. That's who I'm talking to. Let's talk about that. All right, we can see. I'm doing this hackathon for Cerebus on Saturday. Yeah, Saturday. So I'm getting ready. Tomorrow I'll be getting ready, which it's midnight for me now. So later today I'll be getting ready for this hackathon. I might show my setup as I'm getting ready for this hackathon because I'm going to go live when we do this hackathon for anyone who's interested. But for now, let's get into this. So they update. Every time Cline updates, it always resets your API provider. I don't know why that is. Hey, Cline, can we not do that? I kind of have mine set up and I like it the way it is. So we're just going to go into Cline. Usually there are times where I might do Gemini in planning mode. And then, because I just have a large context window, the context window is massive. So I'll do Gemini in planning mode, and then in act mode, I'll go ahead and rock with Sonnet 4. All right. So let's go ahead and rock out there. That's the first thing I set up. So that's just some basic stuff. And then here's where it gets powerful. I haven't really gotten to workflows yet. So that's coming next. But for now, we're going to talk about the rules. Let's get into this real quick before I break down rules. Why the rules are important. Where are you? Oh, I moved it. Let's open up Figma and we'll break down why the rules are such an amazing thing. Here are the three major concepts that I take into place when I'm developing. Custom rules, the memory bank, and the document hub. Those are the three things I use. And so what are they? Well, let's talk about that real quick as we are setting up. Oh, close all these guys out. You're not what I'm looking for. Where are you? Can we go to my code? There you are. Howdy. How are you? Okay. I don't need this one. Let's drop that. Don't need this one. Drop that. All right. Solid. All right. So for client to make a decision, install next launch. The cool thing about client making decisions is, and again, these are things that we don't even question, right? When we are, running through the coding process and we're working with VS Code and we ask client to execute on some steps, and we can see like when client is working through something, we don't ask like what is the steps to getting here? Like what process do you go through to get here? We just ask a question and we kind of accept what they give us. But it's really cool if you go through the GitHub and run through client source code. One of the tools I like to use is called DeepWiki. Let's open this up real quick. If you ever want to like understand a code base and you don't necessarily know what you're looking for, I like DeepWiki for helping anyone understand like large code bases. And this is by Devin. And we can probably do, I'm also a Devin user as well. We won't get into Devin on this setup, but we can talk about Devin at some point. So, one of the things I wanted to understand about client is like what is the decision tree? Like how do you go from planning mode to act mode to getting to a completion? What is the decision tree that happens here? And so this thing, Devin basically, hey, I asked for what is the conversation flow diagram from initial task to the completion. And it'll break down where the code is, where it found it, and it'll run me through, here's a core task loop. And it will literally run me through the task loop of how client comes to a decision where it ultimately writes your code. And again, it's also associated with the actual code. It'll let me know where it found it. So this is a cool tool to kind of help me understand, okay, if I'm going to write custom rules around this, like what is important to me? And so I then take this decision tree here, and now we convert it into something that's a little bit more digestible. So now you see this. All right, if I ask a question, that's going to run through this loop, and then ultimately I'm going to get to a completion, right? Why is that also important? Because then I can see, well, what operations are you taking? Again, now that I know the decision tree loop, well, now I want to know what other things are involved. I'm sorry, this is going to open up Figma. Hey, Figma, can I copy link to DeepWiki? There we go. What is the assistant response? And what are the colors of the tool actions? Because we can see here in Cline, it's breaking down these tools. But like, has anyone ever asked, well, what do these colors mean? What is the breakdown? What is happening here? And so I went ahead and I'm like, all right, let's look at the breakdown. What's in here? This is going to help me kind of identify what can I customize? Like, how do I take this a step further? Which led me to like, really defining Cline rules. And so if we look at our gist here, I have a public gist with Cline rules in them. Let's open this up. Sorry if I'm jumping all over the place, but we're getting somewhere. All right. So I have my engineer rules. I know what I'm going to be working in. I'm going to be working in TypeScript. That's never going to change. And so I kind of come here. I have my custom rule. And here's where all that's set up. And so let's look through this real quick. Remember, everything is based on what we're seeing here. So this operation that's happening, the rules are going to respect it. So let's go ahead and just read through this real quick. I'm Cline. I'm an expert in software engineering with stateless memory. After every reset, I rely entirely on the memory bank and document hub. Again, remember, the big three that I use here are, let's go back. I use the custom rule, the memory bank, and the document hub. I rely heavily on that. And so, again, in the rules, I'm saying, hey, look, this is what I rely on. Continue to work. These documents are my only source of truth. I must read them at the beginning of every task. One of the things I hate that a lot of the vibe coding tools do is they lose context of what I need them, not only what I need them to do, they lose context of the whole code base. I need you to have a full picture of what's happening. And so what's set up between the memory bank and the document hub is a full scope of your project. And so in order for the AI to maintain scope and maintain exactly what you needed to build, I'm saying, hey, look, when you're starting every task, make sure you do these things. And again, here we are. The words matter. I don't think we pay enough attention to this, and we're just writing stuff. The words matter. Cline is task based. It starts with a task. We've established this. Everything starts with a task. User initialized task. It understands the language of a task. So you know what I'm going to say? Every task. Why? Because that's the language we're using. And so every task, this is non-negotiable. You have to start here, right? So this is our basis for our, protocol, task flow, document alignment. Now we're going to kind of structure. I don't like the way this looks here. Let's go here. Make sure I have the right one. Actually, I just rewrote it. So, Cline protocol update. I did just rewrite the protocol. Where are you? Cline protocol. Okay, here's my updated protocol. I wanted to make a few changes. There we go. Where's the copy button? Gotta love when they make it easy for you to find it. Here we go. And let's move this out of the way. Great. And then let's open it so you can actually see a better view of this. Reopen editor with Markdown Enhance. All right. So this is a better view of it. Every task. There we go. So our document hub, we kind of organized our document hub. Here's how I want you to look at it. You have your system architecture, key pair responsibilities, tech stack, and glossary. I'm going to dive into what the document hub is. But just to give you like a high level overview. So it's going to check the document hub. Here's what it's going to look at. I'm letting them know, look, here's where we're going to see high level system, project, definitions, primary technology. So you know what we're working with. I want Cline to know the tech stack that we're working with before it dives into anything. And then must read all these before going to planning mode. And then I separate it because, again, we have Cline operates in two modes. Words matter. It operates in planning mode and acting mode. Well, what's the difference? Again, we can see planning mode has a different set of tools for us. We know it's going to go through some planning mode response. It's going to go through information gathering, detailed plan, present the plan to user, and it's going to refine the plan in this loop here. Now that we know that, we can plan for that. So when you're in planning mode, this is what I need you to do. It's going to start. It's going to read the document hub. Once it's done, if it's not, it's going to create a plan and document it in the chat. Verify the context, develop strategy. So it's going to use the full context when it's developing the strategy. It won't just say, hey, because you asked me to build a feature, I'm going to build that single feature. It's going to go, hey, you asked me to build a feature, let me check the code base. And maybe the building blocks for that feature already exists, and it becomes part of the plan that it writes ultimately. And so we want the context to be there, and we don't want to just write code on top of code. And you look at a lot of stuff that's vibe coded, it's like code on top of code on top of code. And it's a lot of noise, and there's no real source of truth. And so we kind of want to separate the concerns, but we want everything to go to a single source of truth. Pre-executing verification, thinking. And again, this is something we can look up. As I was going through this, it talks about this thinking step here. You can look it up in the Deep Wiki where it talks about thinking and kind of identify that. Review inputs, all duck, review inputs. So pre-executing verification. Did we find that anywhere? Pre-executing verification. I think there's some verification process. Maybe not. I could probably optimize it. And also at the same time, I'm also looking for places where I'm able to optimize this. So this is one of the places where I can probably optimize this a little better, because it's not super consistent with the confidence level. Sometimes it does it, sometimes it does not do it. For the most part, it does it though. But maybe if I rename this header, it'll be able to do it. Assess clarity, foresee path, assign confidence level. This is huge. If you do nothing else, after you have come up with a plan, ask Cline or whatever you're using for its confidence level in the execution of the thing. What you'll find is, after you've asked it for the confidence level, if it gives you something with a medium or a low, that's usually an opportunity to give it some more context, or ask some more follow-up questions to determine why it's a medium or a low. And usually if it's high, it's going to do a pretty good job of executing. All right, so deliverables present clear structure of reasoning, reference, and then boom, act mode, execution phase. Now we're going to do, here's the thing. I'm not always in planning mode. Sometimes I like to go straight into act mode because I'm clear on what I want and I just want to execute. Well, in order for me to kind of navigate that properly, I still want to check my doc hub just to make sure I'm in proper context. I still want to make sure I'm not, again, cross-cutting concerns. I don't want something to cross something else, right? But I do want it to execute on task. And so if it is simple, again, I'd rather measure twice and cut once. And if I'm not planning it and I'm getting right into the measuring and cutting, I still want to measure it. I never want to get to the point where I just go in and start slicing. And a lot of times what we're doing when we're using these tools, we'll go in and start slicing. I want, if I want the tool to be well done, I'm already accelerating the time I have to finish by using AI. I don't need to accelerate the time more. So why not take the time to plan? And if I have to get straight into the task, why not just leverage the time it takes to do it the right way? And again, no one's ever defined right way. But here we are. We gotta define something. And so whether you're going from act mode to planning mode to act mode, I still want you to go, let's do a double check. So one of the recent rules, so rules during act mode. I'm in TypeScript. One of the things that it likes to do if you don't tell it not to is, I like strict typing. I don't want to drop any just anywhere. So I don't want it to drop any's. I wanted to declare what the object is, the expected response. So that way when I start testing, or as I'm like documenting the process, it's very clear on what the input is and what the output is. So I don't allow any's. All valuables assigned, no uninitialized value, core principle. These are just the core principles. Don't repeat yourself. Single responsibility principle, separation of concerns. I'll probably edit that out, etc. Must be followed. File size. This is a huge thing for me. What happens in a lot of time, in a lot of spaces where people are doing vibe coding, is they'll get these huge files, 1,000, 1,500 line code files, and what they'll do is they'll take these huge files and they'll vibe code on top of these files, and the context windows just gets ridiculous, and then they become impossible to read. If ever I don't have the option of using this, I want to be able to have readable code that I can go in and write. And so usually for me, I don't know what it is for other languages, but for me in TypeScript, I want to keep my file somewhere around 350 lines. And if it goes beyond that, then maybe I need to separate concerns. Maybe I need to do something. I need to have a class at a top level, and I need to call into a class that might call into another file somewhere else. And so I want to keep it at 350 lines. I need to lint the code, no errors. Post task diagram and summary must be recorded if logic shifts. This is for my document hub. And then we're setting this up. Boom, boom, boom. And then we go through the documentation update protocol. It's going to review, add documentation, and it runs the command update document hub, which is a real command. And then boom, that is our initial setup of our custom code rules. Next, you have your document hub. Let's go into the memory hub, the memory bank. So the memory bank is supplied by Cline memory bank. Boom. We can read it here. Complete guide to memory bank. Started with Cline memory bank. This is how you install. So they wrote this out, and I thought this was interesting. And I said, you know what? Why don't I read this and kind of determine what they're doing? And let's go. So we'll close out the custom code, and we're going to open the memory bank because I thought this was super interesting. They have this flow. So you start with your project brief, which feeds into our product context. And now your project brief also feeds into your system pattern. And then your project brief also feeds into your text content. Then your product context feeds into your active context. And then your system pattern feeds into your active context. So these are all things supplying the information to active context. And then your tech context feeds into your active context. And then your active context feeds into your progress. So that's how it keeps up with everything, right? It puts it in these order, and it keeps up with everything, and it feeds the information. It trickles down until it eventually gets to your progress. So it'll say, hey, this is my current task, and this is like big level. Here's where we are. And then we describe what these files are. So you see here it's like describing what's in the files, what you should expect from this context. This was super cool. Like I was nerding out on this. And again, if you're someone who's building a product, you don't have to know the details of this. But again, I feel like words matter and the details matter. And if you use something like this, you can leverage it to build really cool custom rules like we have with this project. And then additional context. Now it's saying create additional files and folder when they help. I thought that was cool, right? And so what does that mean? There's complex things, like it tells you when it needs to create new files. Plan mode. Again, there's a separation between planning mode and act mode. I got this from here. So this let me know that Cline is, when they're writing their prompts, they're paying attention to how the code is functioning. So these are guys that wrote it. So that lets me know as a developer, if they're paying attention to how their code is looking through their prompts, then I should pay attention and I should write prompts in a similar fashion. And so that's why we separate planning mode and act mode, because they're doing the exact same thing. So that lets me know their code is looking for it when they're looking at their rules. And again, we can go, since that stuff is open source, we can look at how Cline treats these rules when they're looking at this prompt. Document updates. It lets us know how to update it. It lets us know when to start and then when to do the updates here. All that stuff is in there. And you can literally go through and look at start and process. That information is in there as well. And so if all this stuff is in the code, then perhaps we should write the same thing. But what can we come up with if we were to take the exact same thing that Memory Bank does? Again, if we look at, they have a full breakdown of this. But if we took the same thing and we built our own, what else can we do, right? I found this thing, Cline. It's not in here. Let's see, Cline. Ooh, you gotta do a search for it. I wonder if it's in here. There was a reference somewhere. Searching Cline. They might have like updated it. I can't find it anywhere. Let me check DeepWiki. Actually, we don't have to check it. But I found something that hinted for like a document repo. And I said, you know what? What if we wrote a document repo? So I have developers that I work with, and I know for me, when I go into new code bases, I want to know, all right, I'm in a new code base. I've never seen this code before. How do I get a high level overview of what's happening here? Like, how do I understand what's going on in this code base? And so one of the things I thought about is like a document hub. I should have a document hub that says, here's your system architecture. Here are key terms. Because sometimes I'll go into a project with other developers and I'll go into the meeting or the sprint review and the stand up, and these guys are talking about terms I've never heard before. And it would be great to have like these code base that says, hey, here are all the key terms that you're probably going to hear more often than not. And so it'll go through the key terms. And then I know there are specific files in there that drive your application. Again, we just went over this, right? We looked at our pocket, and here are our 4 main features. Well, these are the drivers of our application. So wouldn't it be nice if there was a file that said, hey, here are the key responsibilities and the files that you need to pay attention to? Because this thing is the thing that drives. So it's like, all right, that would be a cool thing to have. And so why not write a doc hub or a place where that stores all the information from 0 to wherever you are, right? As a code scales and gets bigger, it would be nice to have a centralized location where I can see all the documentation for the code base. As it's getting updated, I know where everything is. I know what everything does. I know how it operates. Wouldn't that be cool? And so I said, yeah, why not write the code base for that? And so based on the memory bank, we can write a separate logic that where all it does is maintain your code base. It maintains the documentation for your code base. And so every time you're building a new feature, it goes, oh, let me check the documentation for the code base before I build a new feature and then add on to it. And so let's go ahead and look at this. Reopen with Markdown Enhance. Let's look at the document hub. And it runs the same way as the memory bank. So every function that you do in the memory bank, you essentially do on here. I took the memory bank as a template. Again, if you write the prompts the way they're writing prompts, you can leverage it the same way they leverage it. Oh, I gotta close this. Sorry, I gotta close it before I open it. If I have an active window, it won't open. It won't open if I have an active window. Here we go. All right, here we go. I'm Cline. I'm Expert Software. And again, if you look at this, same structure as the memory bank. I'm Cline, Expert Software Engineer. My memory resets. Boom, boom, boom. So I learn on memory bank. And if you look at my memory bank, it says the same thing. My memory bank complete sessions. Boom, boom. Oh, I gotta add it in there. Huh. I rely entirely on memory bank to understand. I'm sorry, I gotta switch it up. I gotta close this out. My bad. This is Cline has this. I'm sorry, VS Code has an extension for the preview Markdown, but the extension is a little funny. All right, here we go. Every task, I retire on memory bank and documentation hub to understand the continuous work. Effectively, I must add all blah, 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 blah. Same thing we saw there. Here's the breakdown. The system architecture supplies the context for the key pair responsibilities, and the key responsibilities supply the glossary, and the system architecture supplies information for the tech stack. And then I describe what's in this file, what the responsibilities are, breaking it down. Everything is now broken down, right? I think let me see if I can find a good example. I'm going to just open up a code base real quick that I've installed this on. API. I have an API that I'm working on right now. Let's see, does it have a memory bank in it? Yeah, it does. All right, so let's look at this real quick. If we look at the glossary, again, this is just showing us, and just so for reference, I'm just showing the production. So once we have a code base running, what it looks like if you have your memory bank running, and this is what it's actually going to reference. So let's go memory bank, and then we're going to reopen, markdown, boom. So every time I say memory bank update, so I'll go over here and I'll type in memory bank update. It'll go through the entire code base. Well, it'll go through based on last task and what recently happened in the memory bank after I say document hub update. And it'll say, all right, here are the main things that are mentioned, right? Mood tracking, boom, boom, boom. It'll go through all the things. These are the things, the terms that we're breaking down here. And it will break these terms down. So now when we're in meetings, I can look at this glossary and go, oh, I know exactly what, not only that, but the code has a context of what other parts of the code are talking about, right? Instead of saying, in this case, instead of saying friends, it says circles. Well, it has to know what circles mean, right? Look at that. Trusted network. So now it gave meaning to a word that didn't mean anything inside of the code base. It's very powerful context. And so we're making these rules to establish some context for the code. Let's look at key responsibilities. And to my knowledge, I don't think anyone is like writing, oh, let me write a document hub. And what does a document hub look like? Like, how do you document your code base? This is what it looks like. So now all of our main responsibilities, our primary tools, the thing that you have to pay attention to, it's all in here. Let's take a look at the system architecture. I think this one is going to be super powerful. So let's look at that. Reopen editor. Let me see if I can do the preview enhance here. I have flows of how things architecture, functional architecture, component, design patterns, right? Everything you need to know is in there. And as you continue to build it out, it'll just keep growing. Let's see. Open with markdown. And this is kind of like an index. So this serves as an index for everything. And then it breaks it down. And so that's what it looks like when we have been like cooking for a while, right? So that's what cooking looks like. And so that's our document hub. And again, it'll just keep building as you grow, the same way the memory hub, the memory block does. So those are our three main blocks, right? Our document hub, our custom code, and then lastly, I have MCP rules. I'm not going to really get into the MCP rules. This is just a simple prompt for context 7. I'll get into that another time. But this is just our setup, right? I think this is a good session to just talk about like how we set this up, but I kind of want to add a little bit of like, where do we go from here? Where are we going to start? We have this application that we want to build. Now I know for me, I'll probably want to use one of these like Postgres tools. Let me see. Where's the one? This is a great time to have a bookmarking tool because I would just go to it to pull up one of these tools that I like. Postgres Super Base Alternative. I can't remember the name of the application. They are the Postgres alternative. I think Theo invested in these guys. What are the guys called? Can't remember the name of this application. I know Theo talks about these guys all the time. Pocket Base. Was it Pocket Base? No, it wasn't Pocket Base. Manage hosts. Maybe it's Super Base Alternatives. No, I can't find the thing. What is the name of that application? Go back. Base, AppSheet, Neon. Parse. I'll know it when I see it. And I haven't seen it. I know they have like a hamster or something as a logo. I cannot think of it for the life of me. Oh my gosh. I can't think of the name of this application. This is bothering me. All right. I can't think of it. Let's call it Superbase for now. All right. So we have our application. Here's where, if I'm a tech founder, here's kind of where I'm drilling in. We know what features we got to build. The next thing I do once I know the features I'm building, I'll start diagramming what the database looks like. Yes, I'm still doing that part by hand. I'm not really leaving that to, I mean, you could leave it to AI to do, or maybe you can leave it to AI to give you a baseline. But I love using DB diagram. Literally, if I have an idea for a DB diagram, I'll just drop it in here, and then boom, I have a bunch of stuff. Let's see what happens if we allow AI to give us a baseline. DB diagram. This is my first time trying this. I don't know what's going to happen. Why not try it live with you guys? Can I start a new one? New diagram. Here we go. So we're going to start a new diagram, DB diagram, and then we're going to go to the DB diagram docs. DB diagram docs. Let's check out the syntax. DBML for syntax. Then what I want to do is I want to go to the chat. All right. I want to baseline this. Oh, I also want OAuth with Gmail login, and let's go with Gmail login because I have a Gmail. So let's go with Gmail login. And I want to, all right, before we do that, I'm kind of a little bit of a stickler on the authentication piece. So since I know what I want, I'm just going to add that in there. Boom, boom, boom. Gmail OAuth session handling. All right. And for now, I don't think roles need to exist. I'm thinking maybe at some point in time I'll add like an admin role. But for now, everybody's a user until I want to do that. Boom. Now that we have that, also to store URLs for thumbnail images. Let's see if it adds that to it. Oh, look at that. It's already working on the table. All right. Help me baseline the Postgres. Now I want to let them know I'm doing a Postgres database using dbml. Give it a link. I don't know what's going to do with this link. All right, let's see if it actually, I don't know, will it use this link if I have it do web search? There you go. So I'll add web search to it, see if it does the URL for me. Let's look at it. I appreciate you if you have stayed in this long and watched for the last hour. Again, I wasn't sure if I was going to do this. Glad I did. I just want to get it out the way. Like, I made stipulations about making the video and posting this kind of content, and I always want it perfect. And sometimes you just gotta freaking just put it out. All right, boom. So it did do the research. It did give me some references. Let's go ahead and copy this in and drop this and see what we got. Ooh, we got some errors. Reference with the same endpoint exists. Session user ID. Reference. I think if I use a reference, I don't need to use the reference twice. It helps. So one thing about knowing the code, it helps. I mean, because the AI doesn't know that, you know, and the error wasn't very clear. And it wasn't like there was I think for DB diagram, it would be cool if they had an AI fix it plugin things, like, chat with AI to fix your errors. So if there's an error in here, like, the AI will just fix it. Or maybe it'll give you some suggestions. So if they wanted to incorporate AI into the application, I think that would be really cool. I mean, a lot of people are already doing that. Superbase is doing it. You can really find it in Lovable and all these other guys. So it'll be a cool thing for them to leverage. Boom, boom, boom. All right, so we can see what's going to the user. So we have sessions, we have logs, we have bookmarks. Every user has a bookmark. We have tags for the bookmark. So now you have a bookmark with a tag ID, this is a junction table that connects bookmark tags, so the bookmark to any given number of tags. And then you have a tag table, which has every tag in it, so you don't necessarily have to repeat a tag. And it's attached to a user ID. I don't know if tags should belong to a user. I think tags should be anybody's, and perhaps a user is leveraging them. I'm trying to figure out why they did that logic like that, right? Tag ID to bookmark, I get the relationship between tag and bookmark. I don't get the relationship between the user tag bookmark. Oh, actually, maybe I can map it in reverse. Find me all the bookmarks of said user by tag. Yeah, I could probably reverse it. All right, we'll keep that just in case I ever want to create a feature that reverses that. So right now the step is, and what I'm just looking at right now, I look at all my bookmarks and I can split my bookmarks by tag. But what if I wanted to find all of my bookmarks by it's so weird. I don't think I need to do that. Dang. Yeah, so that logic isn't really needed, but we'll hold that for now. So this is what AI came up with as far as like our table is concerned. So we're going to take this logic here and we can literally export this to Postgres. Boom. So we're going to call this MVP. I'll download that. And now we have our schema already defined for our MVP. And again, this is a level beyond just doing lovable stuff. This is like, I want to build a production app. How do I go about doing it? And we're building a bookmarking application. So we have our MVP, our clicking, we have the split feeds, and get thumbnails. Boom, schema highlights, tip twos. So the thing I want to know, I want to make sure, can we confirm I want to confirm that our schema actually does address our features. Like, explain to me, if I didn't know any better, can you explain to me how the schema that we put together actually addresses the features that we're building? Right, now it's explaining to me how the OAuth thing is in there. Explain to me how the session stuff is in there, how the activities, the bookmarking and the saving, tagging and tag suggestions. So we have this tagging table. CSV importer, save feed versus central feed. And then it gives me a little bit accuracy notes, logging activity, suggestion, further reading. Create composite index. Speeds up feed queries. All right, so yes, this is for faster queries. Consider a session log. Boom. So it told us, hey, look, you have your schema and we're good to go. This is how your schema is going to be set up. Here's how it addresses your features. Again, we have our feature list that we want to build out. And here's how we're going to address your features. And so now we have that in there. So here's what I want to do. I have that schema in here. We're going to start a new project. Connect to workspace, clone repository. I've only done this like once. Open a folder, clone repository. Do I want to do this in WSL? Most of the time I do. We're going to start a new project. Start a new project. There is a git init somewhere in, or connect. MVP folders, blah, 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 blah. I forgot how VS Code does it. Provide a URL. I think maybe I had an extension for starting a new project. Let's just start a new one. Let's go to GitHub. So now we're going to start building. I don't know how deep I'm going to get into this, but my goal is ultimately, we'll do another episode. Ultimately, you know, we're going to build a application from end to end, and you'll be able to reference this and go, all right, I see what this guy did. And then I have links everywhere. So I'll supply links somewhere in the description or something where you can see everything I did. Start a new repo. Actually, I want to make this public. Did I already make one? I have a feeling I already made one. Brainstorm. What was this? Oh, this was an extension. I was working on building an extension. All right, maybe I never did it. What are we calling this thing? Let's call it, if it's not pocket, what do we call this? It's not really a pocket. What is another word for pocket? Another word for pocket, but smaller. I don't want to be pocket. How can I be smaller than a pocket? Let's call it compartment. It seems like cool. Oh, pouch. I like pouch. Go from pocket to pouch. All right, let's call this pouch. I like pouch. We're gonna call it pouch, and we're gonna make it a pocket alternative. Boom. Public. Start with a template. No template. Blah 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 blah. No get ignore. I kind of want to do a. Got TypeScript get ignore. Maybe a node get ignore. Yes. And we're gonna do, I don't know, MIT. Add readme. Nope. Great. Choose an owner. Look at me. I'm the captain now. Okay. So we're gonna create the repo one day. Oh, please choose an owner. I did choose the owner. Pouch is available. Boom. And now we're going to clone the repo. Get repo. I usually would. Let me see. I should already be signed in. Boom. There's our pouch. Select a repository. I'll save it into our apps directory. And now we have a baseline, people. Did it not connect? Oh, it's connecting. Yes. Oh my gosh. Boom. All right. So now we're about to start cooking. We're about to start cooking. So we've gone over our memory bank, our document hub, everything. We've gone over our product and what we're building. We have this thing to help us out. What else do I know about the technology stack that I'm not really describing? Let's go ahead. Before we do that, let's initialize this thing. Remember, we're going to initialize our three main rules. We got our three main rules that we're initializing. So we're going to start with, according to Cline, we're going to start with the initialized memory bank. I'm going to take that, initialize memory bank. Now, if you don't already have the folder, even though it says add the folder, if you don't already add the folder, it will create the folder itself and add it for you. I think there are cases where it doesn't create the folder, and maybe they included that in the instructions just in case it doesn't add the folder, or maybe you have some sort of permissions around that. And so maybe they've said, hey, look, maybe we should ask the user create this folder in case there are permission issues. But I trust it. And look, there it is. It created the folder. Again, it's going to read through our rules, and it's going to initialize the memory bank based on the rules that we have. But we won't just do this for the memory bank. We're also going to do this for the document hub. The document hub is how we identify that our code is always in context. It never loses where it's supposed to be. And the memory banks help with that too, because the memory bank says, hey, here's all the tasks I've completed up to this point, so don't go backwards. But when we combine them both, we get something super powerful. And someone had asked me, it's like, hey, Mark, if we have both of those in there, wouldn't that be more expensive? If we look at like how we're spending the money, wouldn't that be more expensive? And my argument is, well, we have this cache window. The cache pricing, let's look at this real quick. We have your regular input and output pricing, but then we have cache pricing. And it's going to be cheaper for it to read out of cache than it is for it to go through your regular inputs and outputs. So I kind of want it in cache, and I want the thing that should be in context in cache. I want the best piece of information in cache. I don't want just anything in cache. And when you don't have the right context and you just ask it to complete a feature or do a task, it's going to put what it thinks is best. But if you said, hey, look, here's everything in context. Make sure you think of this before you start coding. Everything is going to be in context, and usually it's going to execute on the right things from the get-go. In my opinion, even if that context is a little bit more expensive, the total output is going to be cheaper over time. Over that time period, that total output is going to be way cheaper. And you'll find that you're going to see some cost reductions in making sure that you are executing on the right things first. All right, so now we're going to do initialize document hub. We got a memory bank, document hub. I'm so mad I can't remember the name of this service. I really want to remember this. And just like the memory bank, it's going to start making files. This is so cool. I don't know. I'm like impressed by these little things in life. Still kind of impressed by this. Super. feel like Reddit would have a better answer. Is it Pocket Base? There's a freaking hamster. Yes, it's Pocket Base. Like, I know this thing is out here, and here I am calling this thing Pouch. It's only right that we use a Pocket Base. That's actually pretty cool. I'm not gonna lie. That's pretty cool. The little things in life. It's the little things in life. Let's get an account. Do I have one? No. It supports everything I want to do. How do I get in? Do I need to get in? What do I do? I don't know what to do. I've never used this before. Please, my Pocket Base is still under active development. Blah, 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 blah. Oh, I have to host it. Oh. Okay. I know I said I wasn't going to talk about Context 7, but perfect use case for MCP, because I have no clue. I've never used this before. The way I would normally do this is a little different than the way I'm about to do this. All right. So what do we know? Here's our client documents. We also know, let's add this in here. We've downloaded our, what did we download, Mark? We downloaded our SQL. Oh, geez. Come on, SQL. Load for me. There we go. So let's drop that in there. And it knows everything in there. So we have our SQL, and we know what this is. Where do I want to put this? I kind of want to put this there. No, let's put this in a new folder. Call it reference material. And then we'll put our CSV in here too. Ooh, I don't want to look at that. Close that out. So we're going to put our CSV. I'm going to rename it. Export it. Exported URLs. All right, boom. That's our reference material. I like starting with the API first. All right, so here's what we know. We know our features. Let's grab this. Honestly, I want to grab the whole conversation. Can I do that? Can I do that? Is that possible? Would that be outrageous? Should I copy? How do I want to do this? Let's do this whole thing. Boom. I wonder if they have a button to do that. No. Nah. I bet. I'm going to add it to the reference material. What we are building. .txt. Sure. Should I have named this .md? Rename .md. Boom. All right. Establish what we're building. Now we know what we're building. We have a stop it. We have the export. Let's start a new task. So now we're going to start cooking. Actually, are we going to start cooking just yet? Two things I want to know. Two core pieces of technology that are going to be involved. I know this is going to involve Next.js, but also, what visually are we going to do here? Do I want to involve the visual side? Let's do the database first. All right. I want to split. So I'll let them know I want to split. Let's go in planning mode. Here's what I want to do. I want to do backend and just focus totally on backend and then do the front end. And we're going to split it up. I do want a mono repo. So because I want a mono repo, I want to use NX. And then I know NX is nx.dev, nx.dev. And again, if you're someone who's looking at this and going, I don't know what any of this is. Assuming you don't know what any of this is, that's where our other Cline rules come into place, or our MCP server comes into place. So we do have MCP, we're all running context 7. I do have a rule for that, and we haven't gone into that. Maybe I'll do that in another video where we talk about that. But for now, let's get back into, oh crap. Let's get back into our chat. Did I lose that? Oh, here we go. I want to leverage NX. I want my front end to be a Next.js application with, let's say, shad cn UI. I want my back end to use, what we say, Pocket Base. Pocket Base. I want back end to use Pocket Base. I also have a reference material. Reference material. Guess what, guys? Look, you can actually reference the folder into your prompt. So you don't have to say, all right, let me pull that and literally just call the prompt with my schema and what I to build. Let's put together a plan for the server side development. Do I kind of want to split it? So since I'm using NX, I don't have to necessarily use Next. I could just use Express and leverage Swagger. So let's say then last thing I'll say, use context 7. Boom. All right, so now it's going to go through Gemini, which again, remember Gemini has 1 million tokens, and it's going to go through a thorough planning session because it has such a wide token window. And again, it's going to go through our system architecture. We have nothing in here so far, so it's like none of that stuff really matters. But at the end of this planning session, it's going to go through phases. So we'll probably have like phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, phase 4. It's going to run through all these phases of things that it's going to do. And then we'll have a baseline. For an MVP, I'm not really going into like make sure it writes test cases. I mean, because this thing would take so much longer. And again, I mean, you can have like production stuff that's ready, but we don't necessarily have to run through that. We'll probably do another one where we're integrating like test cases and making sure that stuff is in there. Again, if you're like writing something and like, look, I'm selling this code at some point. I need it to be stable and I need to have test cases that are all in there. Yeah, we can run through that. But for now, no need. Again, we talked about this. It's gonna get through a lot of the context that I really needed to focus on. And we can see it reading the files. We can look at the prompts. We can look at what's returning. We can look at this cache window expanding. And again, like I said, I feel like I'm okay with paying the cost up front because if broken down without the context, this is way, way, way more expensive. Was it able to go through it? I'm not sure if we have it. I think I've completed all the review steps. Initialize index workspace. We got the index monorepo. Create a backend. So here we are at the server-side development plan. So it's going to run through that. Integrate Pocket Base. Implement API. API documentation with Swagger. Leverage context 7 for documentation. I will use MPC 7. Okay, so it lets us know it's going to use it. Update project documentation. Does this plan align server side? All right, let's talk confidence. Again, so sometimes, remember we were talking about like it might not have the confidence. So let's talk about that. So now it should leverage our rule around confidence to see if it can tell us about its confidence level and what it's about to execute on. So going through each of these phases that it's going to run through, it lets me know it's high in all these sections. Sometimes I kind of wonder if it's saying it's high just as like a reward, if it's getting a reward for saying it's high. But I do notice sometimes where it's like, all right, I'm not really high on this. And I have seen a few lows. And since this is a brand new project, I imagine everything is high until it gets like a deeper context window because it's running through a lot more code. Are you ready to process? All right, it's high on everything. Let's start the process. So what have we done, right? We've spent almost an hour and a half on this. What have we accomplished? So we have structured we've gone through and we've structured our code base. Let's go back. We know what we're building. So we've established what we're building and the features that we're building. We have established a baseline MVP with our table design and structure. We've gone through and we've installed Cline Memory Bank. We have installed more Cline rules with the document hub, and we've added custom code rules. So that way we know it's following our structure and making readable code. We followed all those rules. We've gone through all the principles of Cline. We've had a breakdown of the context window. And then we also talked about how Cline rules are organized. What different color bars mean that we see that are happening in our current Cline context. So now when you see something, you understand, hey, it's probably running through one of these commands. And we understand the structures and the return of those commands and how we can use Cline rules to control that. Let's see. I'm sorry. I'm supposed to say yes as it's going through. So that's what we've managed to do so far. And we've done all of that in an hour and a half. Would you like to use prettier for code formatting? Yes, I love prettier. And honestly, in probably 8 hours, like, if I break down what we've done, what we're going to do, probably over the course of 8 hours, we'll come out with an application. So, this hour and a half, I'll probably go maybe 10, 15 more minutes. And then, yeah, do another episode. I know this one is long, but, like I said, this is my first one. Just put out the content. People like it, they like it, they don't, they don't. I'm learning too, so I'll learn from this. Maybe I'll cut my hair, my beard. I'm in I'm in the middle of like 3 or 4 different projects, so it's like, all right, when we're in album creation mode, things are rough. But what's about to come out is fire. What are you making anyway? PX, NX, latest, blah, 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 blah. I was going through NX first. Wow, I'm surprised I had it so fast. It must have had it somewhere. So it's installing NX. While it's doing that, like I said, we've gone over everything. I'll include the links to all of this stuff in there. What else have we done? We've done a lot in an hour and a half. I mean, I'm sitting here talking about building a company and building a startup. And over the course of, I don't know how many episodes I'm going to do, but over the course of these episodes, like, we're going to build something from end to end. It's going to be usable. That may or may not be live, but it will have an extension. So I'll build an extension. Like, all this stuff is going to happen, which is like the world we live in. It's 2025. We're living in a world where if I think of something, it doesn't take months to come out with this thing. It's gone from months to, I mean, realistically, this is going to be spread out because it's a series. But like, if I sat down and did this, no talking, just sat down, just ran through what this is, over the course of 4 hours, this would be live. And so we're living in a time where, having an idea and executing on the idea, that barrier to entry is becoming lower and lower. And so for founders, it's like, how do you stand apart? Do you just go build an application? Do you go build the next SaaS product? Because there are going to be more people who are looking at content like this and going, oh, I can do that. And there's going to be more people who will start executing on doing that. I mean, what does that mean for venture capital, in the future? Are they making more bets? And then even for the people who are like, pursuing accelerators like YC or Techstars or Dream It or one of these guys, for these folks, is like, is it more if I'm doing all this vibe coding stuff and I'm pursuing this money, like what are the drivers for these guys now? Because the tech isn't really a driver anymore. There's nothing super unique in like that first 90-day time frame. There's nothing really unique about the tech. Am I really investing in the founders? Am I doing more about like understanding who this founder is in front of me? And like, what are you doing as a founder to stand out in the space that like you're not just another founder? Because, again, the barrier to the technology isn't super unique anymore. I don't have to be some MIT, Harvard grad to say I came up with this cool idea. It's mattering less and less, because I can come up with just as compelling technology without a CTO that has a whole bunch of, superlatives to their name. So, it's kind of like an understanding of like how you're going to have to be able to stand out in this space. And I don't know, I think to a degree, a part of it is like branding, and personal branding. So we're going into the space of like, where more founders have to have personal branding, along with the technology. So it's not enough to just have great product. And the people that I'm investing in the people. And so it's like, what does my personal branding look like too? Yeah, I don't know. It's a rant. Let's see if this thing is ready. Still not ready. I went on a 4-minute rant and it's still not ready. If you have any ideas though, look, I'll be doing more of this content. I see some comments in LinkedIn. Actually, let's go to LinkedIn. I see some comments in LinkedIn on this live event. And I am grateful for anyone who tuned in. Look at that. There are people commenting. Look at that. Super helpful. I'll clearly explain everything. Okay. I don't know if that's real or AI. So it looks really solid here. The MCP approach plus custom rules shows you actually get out of scale. Yeah, going beyond basics. I think he read it. I want to say they read it. But thanks, guys. I appreciate you. I hope this is real. Like, it's so hard on LinkedIn because, like, I don't know what's real and what's not real. But I appreciate everyone who's checking out the content. Let's see, YouTube. Ooh, you see, I look at a lot of basketball content. But let's go to my channel. I should be live somewhere. Yeah. Got anything here? I appreciate everyone. Ooh. Nothing. My chat. Open panel. No. There y'all go on Twitch. If you have any suggestions on what you want to hear, what I should talk about, what I should add, if you want to know anything specific about the tech, how we can dive into it a little bit deeper, what you want to know about like building things out, or if you have a suggestion for any product I should build out, like I'll U-turn this whole thing and we can go build something else. If you have a vision for something, like we can go build something else. I want to be a resource and help people kind of understand what's going on in the space. This thing is loading for a while. I don't know how long this is going to take. I might call this episode and then we'll come back. And when we come back, we'll have a backend working. We'll have a monorepo set up with NX. We'll have Pocket-Base. Again, we'll have Pocket-Base set up. More than likely, we'll have a good amount of the API done. Another thing that Cline does is probably has like this, probably has like the limit somewhere in here. I don't know where that limit is, where it shows like the amount of calls. Let me see. There it is. It has like the call limit. I could probably like turn it off and go to bed and come back and see what happens. That's what I'll do. I'll end up doing that. I don't think it's going to be like super crazy. Again, because I'm using this doc hub and the memory bank, it has a task list that it has to run through. And typically won't go into any loops. And then since I'm using Cline, I'm using the Cline provider. If something goes off the rails, it'll just kill it and doesn't cost me a bunch of money. But I will let you know what the cost is. All right, so we're going to kill it here and come back. And yeah, thanks guys. Thanks for joining. Again, if you have any suggestions, write them in the comments. If you want to see anything, if you have a application idea and you know, hey, maybe I want to vibe code, but I want to take it a step further. I want to make this a real thing. I want to produce an application, or maybe I want to sell this one day. But I want to leverage AI and I want to be better at this thing. Or maybe you're a developer and you're like, you know what, I have to leverage AI and I want to understand what's going on. And maybe I'm a skeptic to it. Like, how can I help you? Right? Send me a comment, send me a message. I'm here. I'm human. And yeah, I'm hoping I can help. If I can't, maybe I can push you in the right direction. All right. Have a good night. I say have a good night. Like,